Thank you very much. Well, to start, I want to make it very clear on behalf of all of us that we support legal cannabis and accessible places to buy it. Good morning, everyone. But here in Toronto, there has been a flood of new retail licenses crowding out smaller independent sellers and leaving our main streets without that diverse range of shops and services that make them really great places to live, to work, and to shop. And this is an issue that's already been causing concern in my neighborhood, in my community, for a few years now. When I first started work on this bill 2 years ago nearly, and now it's only gotten worse as the pandemic has forced out many existing businesses only to have retail spaces grabbed up by new entrants into the cannabis market. And increasingly, those are bigger box cannabis retailers. Now, no one that I've talked to has a concern with cannabis being sold in their neighborhood, I have to say. But they are finding themselves without the small grocery stores, the cafes, the shops, the small bookstores that they need in a walkable, livable neighborhood. And they're wondering why there's so many in, say, one block area. And those same folks in our communities are writing to their city councilors too, I know, only to find that the city has no power to address this real oversaturation or to help facilitate diverse business districts with respect to cannabis retail. In fact, the current provincial legislation explicitly prevents them, municipalities, from passing local bylaws on the matter. My bill, the Cannabis License Amendment Act, seeks to address this by giving municipalities a greater say in the process. Using the existing model for liquor licensing, also regulated by AGCO, the bill would formalize the role of municipalities in the process. It gives communities a little bit more of a voice. It's long past time that we gave municipalities, with their planning expertise, their local knowledge, a voice in the cannabis licensing process. So I'm really glad to be joined today by three excellent people who I have had the pleasure of working with, Councillors Kristyn Wong-Tam and Paula Fletcher, who have put forward this motion at City Council. We are also joined today by Meg Marshall, who's the manager of the Bloor Court and Queen Street West BIAs. And now the councillors have put forward a motion that's coming to council this morning, supporting that bill, which I'm very excited about. And we're going to talk a little bit more with them about why they're doing that. So now to hear a little bit more about their efforts, I'm going to hand it over first to Councillor Kristyn Wong-Tam from Ward 13. Over to you, Councillor.
Thank you so much, Merritt. And I want to just say to our MPP here, your leadership at Queen's Park on this issue is unmatched. And we're so grateful that your bill has been advanced and bringing us together for this opportunity to share some perspectives from the city of Toronto. Councillor Fletcher and I have advanced a motion that will be voted on this afternoon. This motion is asking City Council expressly to endorse Merritt Stiles' private members bill, bill number 29. And it's asking, once that takes place, we are asking City Council and the clerk to convey our express support to Queen's Park. We're hoping that the minister and the sitting government will take this concern very seriously. And there's a number of very legitimate reasons on why we do this. We have been responding to business owners as well as residents, including business leaders who are in charge of some of the largest business improvement areas in the entire country, who've expressed complaints and concerns around the proliferation and the clustering of retail cannabis stores on main streets. We all recognize that COVID-19 has been devastating to many of our small business retailers. They have struggled throughout the pandemic to keep the windows and doors open, to keep the lights on. And this is just one other thing that they have to contend with. And what do they have to contend with? They have to contend with very large cannabis retailers, multinational companies that can pay premium rents on main streets. So they are under so much tremendous pressure that they're forcing themselves is forcing them to close because landlords are actually picking up bigger rents, commercial rents from bigger cannabis retailers who can pay that premium dollar. It doesn't do well for our main streets with respect to the economic recovery that we are all desperately trying to weigh towards because of the COVID lockdowns. And what it also does is actually it eliminates the diversity, as Merritt has so eloquently spoken about the variety of businesses that we need on any main street. Any great main street has a retail strategy that must include a diversity of retailers and shops. And we go to our main streets to gather. We go there to shop, we go there to dine, we go there to eat, play, and do business and participate in civic life. But if every store, and many of these stores are clustered together, where all we have for basically smoked out windows, where you can't see in and out, where people have no place to linger, where there is no opportunity for civic life and congregation, it very quickly eradicates the same reason why those cannabis stores want to be there in the first place. And that is the desirability of the neighborhood. So they themselves aren't helping themselves by oversaturating a market. And then finally, I just want to end on this point. The cannabis is a legal substance. It's also a controlled substance. And I think that AGCO is a great place because it already exists for us to therefore be able to add some control on where these stores can go. Right now in the province of Ontario, we have close to 1,200 retail cannabis stores in the province, and compare that to only 660 LCBO stores, you can see why we're actually putting this motion forward and why Merritt Styles' bill is so important. 25% of those cannabis retailers are in the city of Toronto. So we have to get in front of this. We're asking Queen's Park to get on with it, to listen to not just Toronto residents, but also their constituents, because the same MPPs that represent us in government are also representing those same residents that Councillor Fletcher and I represent. And hopefully that will happen soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Councillor Wong-Tam. And I'm really happy to now pass this over to hear a little bit from City Councillor Paula Fletcher of Ward 14. Over to you.
That's great. Thank you, Mart. And thank you very much for putting this bill forward, because it's something that I think both Kristyn and I have worked on for a while, as many other councillors have been concerned. You know, when the marijuana was made legal, we were all in favor of that. And then when they shifted, the government changed, and there was a shift to selling in small stores rather than kind of an LCBO style. All the municipalities had to say whether or not they wanted to agree to have stores in their municipality. And quite a few municipalities in Ontario said no. The City of Toronto said yes, but we put some conditions on. And one of them was that we could have a little more control over how they would be sited, where they would be sited, if it's near schools, 300 meters apart, not clustering. That unfortunately was ignored. And we just got the ability to sell, but we have no ability to really be thoughtful about what our main streets will look like. So as part of the retail strategy, that's what we thought we should have. That was denied to us. So this bill that you're bringing forward would bring that back, Martin. That's very important. Even now, when we get liquor licenses, the city can comment, city council can comment, and those remarks and those opinions are taken very seriously at the AGCO. We have my ward, Ward 14, 109,000 people. I think we have 4 LCBOs, well stocked, same product. And now we have 26 pot shops and 8 in waiting to get approved. If that happens, there'll be 34 of those. And remember, it's all the same product. It's not as if there's a variety here. And I think the point that the windows and the relationship to the street, the frosting of the windows, meaning that you can't see in, you can't see out, it's a very bad message for our main streets where we want people to be there. We want to have a great vibe. We want it to feel urban and just moving and throbbing. But then you have these dead spaces. It's not great. And I've heard a lot from my constituents. They're very happy that we're pressing on this matter. They're quite concerned that on Queen East, there's already 6 cannabis stores within 2.5 blocks. They're not happy with that, and they would like us to be able to make sure they're spread out a little bit more. And the corner stores in our ward are turning into cannabis shops. So the place where you would go to get your milk, get your bread, get your cereal, can't get that anymore. You're being forced into other parts, not walkable, to get these small staples. So instead of frosted flakes, we're getting frosted windows. And I think that there's a lot of people that are cheering us on for this. They believe it's saturated and we have to find our way out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate the examples that you and Councillor Wong-Tam have brought forward here. You know, some of the practical reality of what this means in terms of the streets in our communities. It's really reflective of what I've been hearing as well. And, you know, when I was the reason I actually brought forward this bill originally was because of, you know, residents certainly raising concerns when we started to see 3, 4 on a block, and now we're looking at like 6, you know. But it was also my local business improvement associations like the BIAs, and it was also folks in other communities, like for example Kensington Market BIA has been, you know, approached me about this as well, and we're quite supportive of the legislation because, you know, and that's a neighborhood, that's a BIA that's very cannabis friendly, right? I mean, there's been cannabis culture, cannabis retail, maybe not actually selling cannabis, but other products related to cannabis for many years. And that's a BIA saying, look, we actually want to see, we're losing that diversity and what makes that neighborhood actually really interesting and exciting, and had concerns about it quite early on. And so when this was first introduced, now, what, 2 years ago almost, we were looking for the government to take action then, and I think we could have avoided some of this. But what I wanted to do is all that to say, my next guest is one of the people who came forward on behalf of a number of BIAs to raise this concern with me and worked with me on this. And so I'd really like to welcome and introduce Meg Marshall, who is manager of the Bloor Court BIA and the Queen West BIA, and we're very pleased to have her here. Over to you, Meg.
Thanks, Mar, and just echoing everyone's great work and support on this, because I think this is something that will really move the needle forward. And as we come out of COVID, to just making sure that we have complete streets again and have that really amazing, balanced, diverse retail mix. Sometimes internally we have a joke whenever we see coming soon and we see that there's a new tenant moving in. A lot of us always say, we bet it's going to be a cannabis retailer, because that just seems to be what seems to be popping up more than most other industries. So it is a cause for concern, an extreme cause for concern. Councillor Fletcher touched on the point that with the frosted windows and with COVID, it just seemed that there weren't as many eyes on the streets. So when we have these frosted storefronts, it becomes a little bit more challenging. You see more darkened out places, and sometimes as we see the concentration, it's happening in more and more large sections of a street. So it makes it more challenging, sometimes people feel less safe at night. So we're just really hoping that we can even out the playing field. And I think the other thing we need to take into account is, yes, there is the argument that local economics will, you know, kind of wean its way out to figure out who's going to survive and who's not. But, you know, let's maybe thoughtfully and very strategically fill our empty storefronts with long-lasting businesses, because at a certain point, are all of these cannabis locations going to survive? I mean, time will tell, but I guess local economics and supply and demand will be the factor of that. All of my BIAs are very supportive of cannabis retailers, but just going back to the argument that there needs to be some sort of provisions and protocols that the city can have to help ensure that it's done equitably, fairly, and we're not driving out other businesses. The other thing I would also just like to say is that it also gives us control for bad operators. We need to have some sort of provisions that, just like with alcohol and liquor license people, the city needs to have some mechanisms in place to also be able to have better control and better a better hand on the pulse of what's actually happening. So there's different angles to look at this in all regards. We just want to have a balanced, positive, thriving community in all of the communities that I work with and across the city. So thank you very much for bringing this forward, and we're really, really fingers crossed that it comes to life sooner rather than later, and we can really get back to a true recovery for everybody.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Meg. And thanks for all your advocacy around this, and also just all the incredible work that our business improvement areas have been doing around actually the pandemic generally, and supporting small businesses, particularly in our communities. You know, we're going to go to questions in a minute, but I just want to say, people have said to me, you know, sometimes we'll let the market just take over and the market will determine these things. But what's going to happen, and what we're already seeing happen in some parts of the country, is that yes, it's happening, and they're closing down, and then we have more empty storefronts. You know, this is not a healthy situation no matter how you look at it. And it's not good economic planning. It's not good urban planning. And I know as well that particularly small cannabis retailers are feeling this too. I'm also hearing from them. They would like to see a different reality. So with that, happy to take any questions, and I'm going to turn it over to Jody to manage the questions. Thank you.
Reminder to any journalists on the line to please use the raise hand function if you have a question. It looks like we have no questions, so I'll turn it back to you, Mara.
Well, it's been great to have everybody here today. I want to say what's so important about this too, and I really thank the councillors again for bringing forward this motion. This is a really important conversation we need to have as a city, as a province, and we need the provincial government to come to the table. They have an opportunity to pass this legislation. There's only less than, I think, about 200 days left before the next provincial election, so they need to act fast. And I've always said, you know, I'm willing to work with the government to see what we can come up with, but, you know, let's work together and let's try to make sure that we come up with something that's good, that allows our municipalities and our communities to have a voice. So thank you again, everyone. It's been really great to see you all.
Thank you very much.